There we go. Well, you're absolutely correct, Your Worship. We were doing very, for a while we started an hour late and we're almost wrapped up in not good time, and then we had Councillor Ladner making, at least I thought initially, some rather good points. How would you deal with the question of an immigrant? And would you bring an immigrant away simply because you have a policy for local employment? And Councillor Ladner took what, at least initially, seemed to be a rather interesting argument, and he threw it all away. Threw it in the trash bin by moving an amendment that makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Take a moment, Your Worship, to look south of the border. We have somebody there who wasn't elected president. He delivered the largest tax cut ever in the history of the nation, and there's not been a single job created.
This is on the amendment.
Well, Councillor Ladner's amendment is that you create jobs by cutting taxes. And all the empirical data worldwide is exactly the opposite. And if Councillor Ladner would read The Economist, which, by the way, the taxpayer pays for, so that he can create, we know that you don't create jobs by cutting taxes. If that was the case, we have had a huge increase in jobs and in employment in the province of British Columbia. The most irresponsible tax cut ever in the history of this province, delivered by the former leader of his party, former leader of the NPA, Gordon Campbell, provincial premier, the most irresponsible and enormous tax cut ever delivered in the history of this province, and not a single job created because of it. Do you know what creates jobs, Your Worship? Take a look at what we just talked about an hour ago. Woodwards. We didn't create Woodwards or move ahead with Woodwards by offering a tax cut. Councillor Green recognized an issue that needed to be worked on, picked up the ball and ran with it. And I would suggest that there will be more jobs created in the redevelopment of Woodwards than have ever been created in any term in any city council here at Frost County, ever. More jobs from that one development. Not by reckless, irresponsible tax cutting, but by recognizing what needs to be done and doing it. So, Councillor Ladner, your argument, at least initially interesting, the amendment absolutely confounds me, and I'll have to vote against it.
Councillor Lilly.
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Ladner's motion may in fact have some merit, but Councillor Ladner fails to realize that over a year ago now I asked for a report from city staff asking for a definition of why we have our current tax structure here in the city of Vancouver, why we have this ratio between business and residential. If Councillor Sullivan and Councillor Ladner had their way, citizens of Vancouver, the residential tax homeowners would have been paying tax increase, would have had a tax increase of over 7% and 8% respectively on the previous 2 years, because they wanted to transfer a significant portion of the commercial tax onto the residential tax, residential homeowner. And here's another instance where they're doing it again, absent policy, absent of the hard data on why that should be appropriate. So I would suggest to Councillor Ladner, if in fact that's what you want to do, which is increase the residential homeowners' taxes, that at least wait for the report that staff are working on.
Councillor Green, on the amendment.
On the amendment, Your Worship, thank you. Again, Councillor Ladner, I thought he started out pretty good too for a second there, but you know, when you talk about protecting jobs, the NPA would see that, first of all, as a very negative kind of thing to do, because what you want to do is slash and burn. And that's what we've seen over and over again with the past leader of the NPA, who was pointed out earlier, Gordon Campbell. Federal vetting is not anything that any trade unionist or any worker has ever wanted to do. That's something that was put in contracts at one time to stop the elimination of certain positions, and it was basically on railroads. But it's not something that I am talking about in here at all. It's again a red herring. I'll give you an example of protecting existing jobs. We're starting to lose some of our jobs in the film industry. And if you'll remember, a few months ago, I put forward a motion that I think passed unanimously, I may be incorrect, that we urged the provincial government to look at getting rid of the provincial sales tax on the film industry in order to give them a competitive edge. So I think that that's the way we look at whatever creative method we have, right, for maintaining jobs. In that particular case, I think you're right. But the policy isn't to attack workers and say that we're trying to give them jobs that don't exist, or to say that when workers are not properly trained and not available, that you can't hire from elsewhere. The program that I'm basing this on is the photo program out of Portland, Oregon, and you look at first opportunities. But I want to say one other thing about the immigrant issue. Absolutely, immigrants are people who we all know, I believe we all know, are absolutely essential to our economy and who we are as Vancouverites. I mean, the average person in this city was born outside of Canada. So we have to keep that in mind. We have to do everything we can to make sure that their skills transfer into the workplace. You know, when I worked in the shipyard, we had a problem that the union had, and that was trying to get the company, Cameron at the time, to train local people as apprentices. And we would fight them to the death, and we really could not get over the minimum. Then when we'd hit a big job like Crude or something like that, we would bring in 200 people from Glasgow to work those jobs who were trained. So what I'm saying is, yes, immigrants make the
Fine city.
Excuse me?
A fine city.
It's a fine city, and I have to say, the lads that came over turned that around. We won the apprenticeship position. We need immigrants, absolutely, and we need to promote immigration, and we need to promote people in the local areas getting jobs. An example, we've asked our engineering department to work with Jim Leotier from United We Can, who have people there that are trained in lane cleaning to bring them the next step into the city workforce. And that's exactly what we're looking at, giving people opportunities in local areas, oftentimes who haven't had it before.
Thank you. Councillor Roberts? No? Okay. Councillor Stevenson, on the amendment.
Thank you, Richard. Several times over the past couple of years, Councillor Sullivan has told us that the government's role, the role of government, is to create an atmosphere for business where business can flourish. That seems to be his sole understanding of what government's all about. In other words, we're to be handmaidens for business and solely for business and practically do nothing else. Whatever we need to do to make sure that business flourishes, that's our job. Well, I think most of us disagree with that. We see the role of government as much larger than simply that as a handmaiden for business. This amendment that Councillor Sullivan is arguing in favor of may have some merit, but it doesn't have any merit here. We need to take this as a motion in and of itself at some other time and then wait for the report as Councillor Louis has suggested, and then deal with it then and have a good discussion, but not get it caught up in this particular motion now. So I would speak strongly in opposition to this amendment and then go on to vote for the motion itself.
Well, I just really find it really quite disappointing. I thought we were going to actually get through an agenda here and get out in time.
Silly man.
And then Councillor Ladner has to throw the old red herring out here by bringing in his hobby horse. But I think it's time that people actually look at what Councillor Ladner and Councillor Sullivan have consistently proposed. It's not simply to reduce the taxes on business, as he presents in this amendment, but in fact to shift the taxes. To shift the taxes to property owners. And consistently, Councillor Ladner and Councillor Sullivan would have us raise the taxes on the property owner by 7 and 8%, given the amendments that they've proposed. The implications of that, of course, being that then they could say, well, Cope has raised property taxes, but their initiative each and every time. They essentially want to shift the taxes off of the business interests and on to the property owners. And I can't support this amendment, and I really wish, you'd be a little less brash and bold in representing your business interests. Thank you.
I wasn't going to get drawn into this. However, the only comment I have is that I too would like to see business taxes cut. And I sincerely wish that the MPA had not installed the business taxes at a 5-to-1 level. Certainly we... We would never have done that had we had the opportunity. And so, as business knows, every time I talk to them, I'm trying to find out how other municipalities are able to get down to the level they are without putting the onus back on to yet another taxpayer within the city. So hopefully we will be able to achieve some of that. As you're aware, we tried that with the first budget. At the second budget, they asked if we would mind not doing that again because it ended up shifting more to them than it had an inadvertent effect. So I will be against this amendment, and Councillor Ladner, last chance.
Desperate last chance. You know, it's funny to me, it strikes me as very odd that members of this council cannot make a connection between a high rate of taxation on an employer and that employer's willingness and ability to hire people. I mean, Councillor Green, excuse me, Councillor Stevens, Councillor Green just admitted that if you want to encourage the film industry, you lower the taxes. So that's exactly what I'm suggesting. And to anybody who says I'm wanting to load up the residential tax base, I did not put that in here because I recognize we have a lot of money coming to us. We will have the opportunity to shift taxes without adding taxes to the residents. And we have lots of ambitious ways of getting money through raised parking fees and through gambling revenues and all kinds of things that will bring money into the city and money coming from other levels of government. So we can do this without sticking it to the residential taxpayers and get some jobs going in this city and help business create the jobs that we all want. Thank you.
I have to weigh in again. First of all, the money coming from the province on traffic fines is designated for police. There's no option. Well, police and safety, but it's going towards police and safety. Okay. The money coming from the fuel tax is designated for transit. And the money designated from the slots from day one was not ever designated as tax relief. It was designated as money that would help our citizens. So I know that there's an idea out there that there's this huge amount of money rolling down the hill, but it's all rolling into different streams. On the motion, on the amendment, all those in favor? Against? The motion is, or the amendment is defeated. Councillor Ladner and Councillor Sullivan opposed, or